What is going on, everybody? My name is Smitty, and you're watching the Trade Think Tank, where I take a players you've been asking about, players on my HeySmitty.com text line, which you can order at HeySmitty.com, players you're talking about in the YouTube chat, players we know you are actively trying to trade, and we're going to take it to the board. We're going to break it down on the board, do a marker board session. The Fantasy Football Show begins now.
This is the Fantasy Football Show with your host, Smitty.
Top 5 running back. You're watching the Fantasy Football Show. I'm Smitty. Take a lap. You're walking into week 11. Some of you have already had your trade deadline pass. Maybe this helps you for some dynasty trades in a current dynasty league you're doing. Or maybe it helps you feel better about the players you have because we're going to be talking them up. But we're going to the marker board. We're going to talk about trading one player away for two, how to trade 2 for 1. The Trade Think Tank
is in session.
Okay, you guys know how much I like trading back in the Art of Fantasy Football Trading in 2018. Those series we did, draft pick trading. You know I'm the trading king, and we're getting into trading right now. One player I think that becomes a very good sell high player right now is Zeke Elliott. Zeke Elliott, who we trading Zeke Elliott for, and why are we trading Zeke Elliott? Number one, he has good trade value. He's a running back in a very stale running back climate. And if you need to trade Zeke Elliott at all, if you need to trade him, you're needing 2 players or 3 or some cross position upgrade because you're not in first or second or third place. So you're not feeling good about your odds. Now, a lot of you may not need to make a trade. If you're in first place, you have 8 wins. You don't need to try and fix what isn't broken. Never turn down a deal that can make your team better. Never stop entertaining offers. Never stop looking around. But if you don't need to trade Zeke Elliott, don't trade him. I'm not telling you to trade him because I doubt him to an extreme degree. I'm not telling you to trade him because I see him falling apart. But I do identify a player that he gets 2 TDs and then has 14 carries. The volume's not quite there. The efficiency is. The offense is up and down. The offense could game script them out. And guess who's there to take some of the PPR work away? Tony Pollard. So in a team, in an offense that can game script out the run, the PPR work is divided. It's different if he's a PPR guy like DeAndre Swift, let's say. DeAndre Swift can get you all the PPR work, all the rushing, so game script doesn't really matter to him if the Detroit Lions continue to use him like they haven't been all year but are currently. But Zeke's in a different scenario because if he's game scripted out, getting only 14 carries and doesn't fall into the end zone twice, the PPR work is divided up. There's just more risk to Zeke Elliott becoming a potential liability when you can trade him away for a lot right now. So if you can trade him away, what are you looking for? What 2 players can you get using Zeke Elliott? Well, like I always tell you, when making a trade, find an anchor. The anchor doesn't have to be the best part of the trade. He doesn't have to be the most valuable part of the trade. The anchor could be a Javonte Williams. Let's say you have a ton of faith in Javonte climbing up and grabbing the starting job in Denver in a couple weeks. He's your anchor. Now you go to the team that has Javonte. Who does this team have on their roster? Oh, they have Tyreek Hill. So now you take Tyreek Hill, you put him over here, Tyreek Hill for Zeke Elliott. He's a running back. He may get you a wide receiver that potentially could outscore him. He could get you a top 2-3 wide receiver because he's a running back, because of the positional scarcity. So this might make sense for you. Or let's say Hill is your target, okay, your anchor of your trade. I want to go get Hill. Now, what players does the Hill owner have on his roster? Oh, being the anchor, looking at the team I've identified, they've got Josh Allen at quarterback. Now I can take Josh Allen, put him right here, Josh Allen and Hill, and let's say you've got Hurts on your team. Now you send Hurts and Zeke for Hill and Allen. So the anchor is important to identify, because once you've plugged in one of the players into the two slots that you're mocking up, what does the other player look like? What can you put into that empty slot? This will help you identify if you can even make a trade with this trading partner. Maybe there's nothing over here that you can even come up with that would make this deal even, and you got to start over with a different anchor player. Let's use a running back as the first anchor. Let's say you go to a team that has DeAndre Swift, okay? So you put Swift in here, and you go to that person's team. Who do they have on here? Oh, they've got DK Metcalf. Now you can throw DK, who's very doubted right now. Swift is definitely a guy people like to acquire, but he's not ranked near Zeke Elliott, so there is a demand for you to get something else, another piece to the trade. Maybe it's DK. Maybe it's McLaurin, and maybe you can't get DK. Maybe if you need a trade and you need a spark, you need two players bad enough, maybe you do take McLaurin in this deal, and you take both these guys for Zeke Elliott. Zeke Elliott is tradable. There are a lot of ways to go get two players for Zeke Elliott. In the case of acquiring Elliott, let's say you want to acquire Zeke Elliott, so you're trading into Zeke Elliott. What two players can you trade away for Zeke Elliott? One player I'm very interested in trading away. I'm also interested in buying him at the right price if I come in and take him 1-for-1 using a wide receiver or something. But one player I love to trade away is Gibson, because Gibson got a little injection of value, and Gibby may be floating on a fake cloud 9, or Gibson owners might be floating on a fake cloud 9, or prospective Gibson owners might be thinking he's returned, and maybe he has. He could be. That's why I do like to acquire him cheap in other deals where I'm throwing a wide receiver and getting Gibby. But in the case of you already own him, you're afraid that his little tiny bounce back is a blip. Here's Gibson's value. It's tanking, it's tanking, it's tanking. Then we get to weeks 9 through 11 right here, and he's got this little spike. Is he just going to fall back down? Because if he does, no one's going to buy him anymore here. Sell him here and potentially get out. And if you're wrong, you're still acquiring something you like a lot. So you're not going to lose any sleep if Gibby ends up continuing to play well and he does bounce back. You're going to be fine. What you're asking for, you're going to be plenty happy with. What do you throw with Gibby? Maybe a struggling DJ Moore. Maybe a Adam Thielen. Maybe you can put together something. Some people overpay for Higgins right now. There are ways to acquire Zeke Elliott that go against what I'm worried about. You're buying him at a value. You're buying him with two different players, and you're getting Zeke at a very protected, baked-in risk type value. Just because I like trading away Zeke doesn't mean I don't like trading for him. AJ Brown's another guy that I like to trade for, but I also love trading away because I worry about him staying healthy. His knees, the offense goes only through him now. Defenses will look to shut him down. So what do I like to get for my AJ Brown? Anchor, Swift, and maybe you could do this straight up. But if you could get like a Mike Williams also, Mike Williams, I think, is one of the most underrated players to acquire right now in fantasy football, because he has potential top 12 to 15 wide receiver upside, but everybody's written him off. And anybody that owns him so disappointed that he isn't playing at a top 10 wide receiver level, they don't stop to consider that he still has a bunch of upside. You can get him thrown into deals. And let's say you're not targeting Swift. Maybe it's McLaurin and Mike Williams. Or instead of Mike Williams, maybe this is where you get that Javonte Williams add-in, where Javonte looks like an add-in and the person's like, just throw him. He hasn't done anything. Give me AJ Brown. AJ Brown is not that much better than McLaurin if McLaurin gets back on his horse and plays good football and gets top 10 to 12 wide receiver numbers. I love AJ Brown, but I love the additive part of this deal, downgrading into McLaurin and getting this home run hitting potential player right here. Same thing goes for acquiring A.J. Brown, though. Let's say you want to get A.J. Brown. You can still trade away, call it Adam Thielen, Elijah Mitchell, who is now not playing, so who knows if you're going to be able to pull that off. But Eli Mitchell and something for A.J. Brown. There are ways to acquire A.J. Brown that go against my thinking of trading him away. It just depends on what angle you're coming from. Do you already own A.J. Brown? Then trading him away from a McLaurin and player makes a whole lot of sense. If you're going to get A.J. Brown, there's guys you can get rid of that are way more risky than A.J. Brown. You buy A.J. Brown with that risk baked in. Boom. Aaron Jones is one of the best players to acquire, in my opinion, in fantasy football, because he's missing 2 games. You're the Fantasy Football Show viewer. You probably own A.J. Dillon. 80% chance you do. If not, make sure you get A.J. Dillon in this deal if he has A.J. Dillon. So if Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon are the players you want to acquire, what are you giving up to get those 2 guys? I mean, you could start off with a Godwin or a Michael Pittman, and then potentially a Hendy or a Mitchell. Mitchell not playing now puts a damper on that. Mitchell was a guy to sell before this news broke that he wasn't going to play this week. Jeff Wilson's been a potential problem, a roadblock, an incoming roadblock that we knew about. Mitchell should have been dealt. That's why he's been on the sell list for a while. Hendy's another guy I worry about a lot. So Hendy going forward, maybe I don't want to trade Hendy and Godwin both for Aaron Jones because that might be too much. But let's say it's Lockett. Amari Cooper was one of the best players to trade away, and now he's not playing. So good luck with that, but you still could potentially get something done. This is if you're getting both A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones together. Let's say you already own A.J. Dillon. I don't like acquiring Aaron Jones without A.J. Dillon. I'm just going to say that right now. But maybe in a situation where you already own A.J. Dillon, maybe you do get him for just a Godwin alone. That's a potential move you can make given that Aaron Jones is out for 2 games. Maybe you add in something small right here. Jeff Wilson's a guy, given that he's starting this week, I would definitely look to trade high because we don't know what his value is going to look like in a couple weeks. Jeff Wilson and Thielen. Jeff Wilson and let's call it DJ Moore. DJ Moore, Jeff Wilson for Aaron Jones. And obviously try and get Dillon in any of these deals, or make sure you already own them. My 2 favorite players to trade for walking into week 11 on, and this goes for Dynasty too, but especially in redraft, is Kyler, who may now play this week, and Hopkins, who will not play this week. These 2 guys, if you have 7 wins, 8 wins, go get them now and dominate your playoffs because you will have the ability to wait on these guys. In the case of Hopkins, you could probably get rid of Thielen, a Lockett. And if you think you can, I'll tell you, if you look at consensus data across the fantasy industry, Hopkins is ranked between 23 and 24 for wide receivers go forward in fantasy football 2021. That means he can be had so dirt cheap. The problem is he's a big name. You're not going to even try because you think you can't get him. Make an attempt. People that own Hopkins are probably playing pretty bad right now. They probably need 1 win more than they need Hopkins, and they'll trade him for a player that can impact their lineup right now, like an Adam Thielen. You put Hopkins on your bench, you wait for him, he comes in, you dominate. If I had to rank my top QBs for week 11 on, I would probably put Mahomes here, Josh Allen here, and I honestly think that once he's back on the field, Kyler will be my number 3. Now, of course, you could argue Lamar. I don't want the Lamar owners to lose their shiat on this, but Kyler Murray, to me, is capable of being number 1 if he's healthy and on the field. The Cardinals will get back to form, so trading for Kyler right now is critical. Probably one of the easiest players to trade for right now is Darren Waller. And if you were to try and trade into Darren Waller right now, I bet you could do it using a Hopkinson, and maybe you throw in a Jerry Jeudy, who I like, but this would be a fantastic move for you. You could probably get away with trading Gesicki and something very small for Waller, which I would do in a heartbeat. Gesicki, I like Gesicki. I'm not saying he's bad, but he's not on Waller's level. Waller will rebound. I get it. He's not being used, but this guy had like 17 targets, I believe, in week number 1. Strike that. It was 19 targets in week number 1. And even though he only has 2 TDs this season, he still had like 105 yards, a 65-yard, back-to-back 50-yard games, another 50-yard game, a 92-yard game recently. So it's not like Waller's completely fallen off the map. He's just not scoring like Darren Waller. He's scoring like Gesicki, and I would trade them in a heartbeat straight up, but I'd give a little decent extra additive to get it done in a second. And let's say the owner of Waller already has a tight end that they want to use. You don't have to take care of their tight end void by acquiring Waller. Even better, you might be able to give a DJ Moore straight up for Darren Waller. You might be able to get rid of Jeff Wilson right now walking into this game. And I'd even do this before the game starts. I understand he could do pretty good. He'll have a good game, but so can Waller. And Waller gives you guaranteed production all year. Jeff Wilson, you don't know if he'll be even in the lineup in week 14. Damian Harris, I would give up in a deal for Waller. Adam Thielen. Other names that come to mind are Lockett at running back, potentially a Gibson straight up I would potentially do. Obviously like a Melvin Gordon and a wide receiver. Some people love Odell Beckham Jr. You give up Odell Beckham Jr. and Harris. People still believe in Odell. I don't understand why. Brandon Cooks is a good player to trade. Waddle is decent. Again, I'd do Gibson straight up for Waller. Waller, the thing about Waller that people don't understand is that Waller may be disappointing you right now, but the people that drafted Waller are different than the people coming into to consume him up right now after the fact. Here's your draft. Round 1, round 2, round 3. Waller probably got drafted on average between round 2 and 3, maybe in the middle range of 3 or the very end of 2 as a high and low point. You're coming in to buy Waller, probably not even at 4th round value, more like in between 4th and 5th round value. The risk is all baked in. You're buying him at Gesicki-like pricing, so I don't want to hear, but I don't trust Waller. It doesn't matter. If Waller doesn't deliver, you're breaking even, hence the risk being baked in. If Waller rebounds back to this value that you didn't pay, you traded for him cheap, you win your league, or you're on your way to winning your league. If you want your players mentioned or talked about, or you want them in the think tank, the trade think tank, drop them in the comments below and we'll try to incorporate them in the next think tank episode, probably next week. We might do a lot of dynasty and redraft. Some of you still have trading going on through like December 1st. A lot of you don't, so we'll do dynasty and redraft to kind of take care of everybody. And make sure you get on over to Smitty1.com right here, not only to get all my content and all my links to everything, but to play Underdog Fantasy and Prize Picks for week number 11. Use everything you know right now walking into week 11 to play a week 11 only best ball contest and dominate. Go to Prize Picks and play over under props. And look at these right here. Jonathan Taylor, 68.5. Give me the over. Dalvin Cook, 74.5 rushing yards. Give me the over on that. McCaffrey, 58.5 against Washington. Give me the over. I know that Taylor's playing a tough Buffalo defense, but he's getting over 68.5 yards in my opinion. You could throw all 3 of these on one contest and hit that multiplier where you got to get all 3 of them right and increase what you're going to get back. Go play Prize Picks. Promo code Smitty if you go there without going to my link and you're not listening to what I'm saying. Smitty1.com takes care of it. Click on either banner, play DFS, play best ball, play props, Do what you got to do in week 11 and get some goodness going no matter what happens with your fantasy team. Extra skin in the game right here. And make sure you get on over to Smitty1.com to do that. Get your text advice at HeySmitty.com and get your lifetime membership at SleeperU.com so you never pay for content again. I'll give you free text advice for the remainder of the year and a draft call for 2022. I'll draft with you on the phone if you go buy a lifetime membership. One of my lifetime memberships at SleeperU.com. And if you do one of these prize picks, bad boys, I will give you a phone call, a 15-minute phone call, whatever you want to talk about. So get on over there. Get on over there. Get on over here. Get your fantasy football on. Get out of here.
This is the Fantasy Football Show with your host, Smitty.
Top 5 running back. You're watching the Fantasy Football Show. I'm Smitty.